The Universal Council chamber hummed with the usual pretentious energy that came with hosting delegates from 47 different species, each convinced their civilization had mastered the secrets of the cosmos. I stood there, all three of my eye stalks twitching with barely concealed irritation, watching the latest spectacle unfold. My name is Vorp, Junior Administrator for the Galactic Engineering Standards Committee.
Yes, I know. Thrilling career choice.
My mother wanted me to become a plasma sculptor like my sister Neela, but no, I had to choose the one profession guaranteed to make family gatherings unbearable. Order, order, Chairman Thraxus bellowed, his vocal sac inflating to twice its normal size. The Quilvan always did have a flair for the dramatic. We are here today to review the application of species designation Earth-Human 343 for admittance into the Galactic Trade Consortium. A ripple of amusement swept through the chamber. Oh yes, the humans, the bipedal mammals from that little blue marble in the unfashionable arm of the galaxy. Everyone had heard about them by now, the species that still used combustion engines well into their space age. The ones who insisted on bringing their pets everywhere, the absolute lunatics who thought spicy food was entertainment. This should be good, muttered Kelna, my colleague from the Structural Integrity Division. She was leaning against the observation rail, her crystalline features reflecting the chamber lights in a way that made my eye stalks water. I heard they built their first orbital station out of welded metal tubes. Welded, I repeated, letting the word hang in the air like a bad smell. Not even molecular bonding. Actual welded metal. She clicked her mandibles together in laughter. And they want to trade with us? What are they going to offer, primitive hammers? The human delegation entered the chamber, and I had to admit, they cut an unusual figure. 3 of them, walking on just 2 legs like it was the most natural thing in the universe. The lead human, a female with dark skin and tightly coiled hair, carried herself with the kind of confidence usually reserved for species that had actually accomplished something worth bragging about. "Greetings, esteemed council members," she said, her translator device rendering her words in standard galactic. "I am Ambassador Keiko Martinez, representing Earth and humanity. With me are Dr. Marcus Webb, our chief engineer, and Lieutenant Yuki Patel, our military liaison." The engineer was a tall, lanky male with pale skin and nervous energy radiating from every pore. The military officer was shorter, compact, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every exit and potential threat in the hangar. Typical soldier behavior regardless of species. Thraxus gestured magnanimously. "Welcome, humans. We have reviewed your preliminary application. However, there are some concerns regarding your technological development levels and your ability to meet our engineering standards." "Concerns," Martinez repeated, her face doing that thing humans do where their lips curve upward. Smiling, they called it. "We anticipated that. We are prepared to demonstrate our capabilities." "Are you now?" Councillor Brecknack leaned forward, his bulk causing his hover platform to dip slightly. The Harvathian was built like a living boulder, and had the personality to match. "Tell me, Ambassador Martinez, is it true that your species evolved in a gravity well of approximately 9.8 meters per second squared?" "That's correct," Martinez confirmed. The chamber erupted in chittering, clicking, and various expressions of disbelief across 47 different species. I exchanged a look with Kelna. 0.98. That was absurdly high. Most civilized species evolved in gravity fields between 0.4 and 0. Even the Horvathians, massive as they were, only dealt with 0.6 standard. "How quaint," Breckneck said, his voice dripping with condescension. "And you built your entire civilization under such crushing conditions? How did you manage to develop flight or space travel? The energy requirements must have been staggering." Dr. Webb stepped forward, and I noticed something interesting. The human's hands were shaking, not with fear, but with what looked like suppressed excitement. "Actually, Counselor, we found that our high-gravity environment provided certain advantages. Our material science developed quite differently from standard galactic norms." "Differently," I muttered to Kelna. "That's one way to say backward." She stifled a laugh. Thraxus waved a tentacle dismissively. Yes, I'm sure you have fascinating stories about your primitive development. However, we must focus on practical matters. The consortium requires all member species to adhere to our engineering standards. Your infrastructure must be compatible with our own, And frankly, structures built to withstand your extreme gravity are, well, overbuilt for the rest of the galaxy. Overbuilt? Lieutenant Patel spoke for the first time, her voice sharp. You mean stronger? Semantics, Breknak rumbled. The point stands. Your technology is incompatible with ours. Your ships are too heavy. Your stations use materials that are unnecessarily robust. You waste resources compensating for conditions that don't exist elsewhere in civilized space. Ambassador Martinez's smile widened, and something about it made my primary eye stalk twitch. Counselor Breknak, if I may, would you be willing to participate in a small demonstration? A demonstration? Thraxus looked intrigued despite himself. What sort of demonstration? A simple one, Martinez said. She reached into her jacket, a movement so casual that Lieutenant Patel didn't even tense, which meant it had been planned. I brought something from Earth, a common writing implement we call a pen. She held up a small cylindrical object, maybe 15 centimeters long, made of what looked like metal and plastic. It gleamed dully under the chamber lights. A pen, Kelna whispered to me. She brought a pen to the Galactic Council. Bold choice. I whispered back, I'm embarrassed for them. Breknak squinted at the object with his primary eyes. What about it? This pen, Martinez continued, weighs approximately 30 grams on Earth. In our gravity, we are used to objects having a certain heft, a certain momentum. Dr. Webb, could you explain the physics? The engineer practically bounced forward, his earlier nervousness transforming into the manic energy of someone about to explain their favorite subject. Certainly, Ambassador. You see, members of the Council on Earth, objects accelerate toward our planet's surface at 9.8 meters per second squared. Every second an object is in free fall, it gains 9.8 meters per second of velocity. A pen dropped from waist height hits the ground in approximately 0.4 seconds, reaching a velocity of about 3.9 meters per second. Fascinating, Breknak said in a tone that suggested it was anything but. And your point? My point, Webb said, his smile matching Martinez's now, is that humans are used to objects having significant momentum. We build our furniture, our floors, our entire world to withstand constant impacts from dropped objects that have been accelerated by our strong gravity. Again, Thraxus said, sounding impatient, we understand that your world is different, but this is precisely why your standards are incompatible with ours. Our gravity is civilized. Our structures are built with elegance and efficiency, not brute force. Exactly, Martinez said softly. Chairman Thraxus, would you mind if I dropped this pen? The question hung in the air for a moment. I felt a strange prickle run along my skin ridges. Something was about to happen. I just couldn't figure out what. Thraxus gestured expansively. By all means, Ambassador, drop your primitive writing tool. Though I fail to see what this proves. Martinez held the pen at shoulder height. The entire chamber had gone quiet now. All eyes on this bizarre display. Even I found myself leaning forward slightly. For the record, Martinez said, this chamber's gravity is standard galactic, correct? Approximately 0.5 meters per second squared. Correct, confirmed Kelna automatically. She was the structural expert, after all. So, in this gravity, Webb added helpfully, this pen will accelerate much more slowly. It will take approximately 0.9 seconds to fall from the same height and reach a final velocity of only about 0.45 meters per second. That's less than 1/8 of the velocity it would have on Earth. Yes, we understand basic physics. Breknak grumbled. Get on with it. Martinez let go of the pen. I watched it fall slowly, almost lazily through the low gravity. It seemed to take forever, drifting downward like a leaf on a gentle breeze. And then it hit the floor. The sound was subtle. A small tap, really. The pen bounced once, twice, then rolled a few centimeters before coming to rest. Nothing happened. I felt a wave of second-hand embarrassment wash over me. This was their big demonstration. Dropping a pen, I glanced at Kelna, who looked equally confused. Then I noticed the floor. Right where the pen had landed, a tiny crack had appeared. A hairline fracture in the council chamber's beautiful, expensive, elegantly designed floor. A floor that had been installed just 3 cycles ago at enormous cost, using the latest in galactic engineering, designed to last for centuries. What? Thraxus began. The cracks spread, It happened fast. One moment, a tiny fracture. The next, a spiderweb of breaks radiating outward from the impact point. The sound of stressed material filled the chamber, a series of sharp pops and cracks that made everyone instinctively back away. A section of floor approximately 2 meters in diameter suddenly depressed by several centimeters, the composite material buckling under stress it was never designed to handle. By the void. Kelnan breathed beside me. How? Oh no, Webb said, and he didn't sound surprised at all, he sounded apologetic. Ambassador, I think we should have mentioned that the pen is made from steel. Steel? Breknak's voice had risen by several octaves. You brought a steel object into this chamber? It's a common material on Earth, Martinez said calmly, though I noticed she was carefully not smiling anymore. We use it for all sorts of everyday items. Tools, utensils, structural supports, decorative objects. This particular pen belonged to my grandfather. Steel. I heard myself say, my voice barely a whisper. They made a writing implement out of steel. Let me explain something for those who might not understand the full horror of what just happened. Steel is dense. Very dense. In the galactic standard, most civilized species use materials like polymers, woven composites, or light alloys for everyday objects. These materials are strong enough for low-gravity environments and energy efficient to produce and transport. Steel, however, has a density of about 7,850 kilograms per cubic meter. That's nearly 8 times denser than most materials we use. And the humans, bless their heavy worlder hearts, used it for a pen, a common, everyday writing tool. In Earth's gravity, that 30-gram pen would strike the ground with significant force, but the floor on Earth could handle it, because everything on Earth was built to withstand Earth's crushing gravity. Drop that same pen in the council chamber with its elegantly engineered floor designed for the gentle 0.5 standard gravity, and you had just introduced far more concentrated force than the material had ever been rated to handle. The floor groaned ominously. Everyone off the central platform, Lieutenant Patel said sharply, her military training kicking in. Now, we didn't need to be told twice. There was an undignified scramble as 47 species worth of delegates suddenly discovered a pressing need to be anywhere else. I grabbed Kelena's arm and pulled her toward the observation deck as another section of floor gave way with a sickening crack. Thraxis, hovering on his platform, looked down at the spreading destruction with an expression I had never seen on a Quilvan before. Pure, unfiltered shock. You destroyed the council chamber, he said, his voice barely audible with a pen. Technically, Webb said, raising one finger, the floor's structural inadequacy destroyed the floor. The pen was just the catalyst. Martinez shot him a look that transcended species barriers. The universal expression of shut up before you make this worse. Chairman Thraxis, she said, her diplomatic voice firmly back in place, please understand that this was not intentional. We simply wanted to demonstrate the fundamental difference between our engineering standards and yours. On Earth, we build everything, to withstand repeated impacts from objects with significant momentum. Our floors, our furniture, our vehicles, our buildings, all of it, because you have to, I heard myself say. All eye stalks were focused on the humans now, because in your gravity, every dropped object is a potential hazard. Exactly, Webb said, nodding enthusiastically. Do you know how many times per day the average human drops something? Keys, tools, food, children. Children? Kalna squeaked. They bounce, Martinez said dryly. Usually, the point, Chairman, is that our engineering standards aren't overbuilt. They are built for our environment. And yes, that means our structures are significantly stronger than yours. Breknak had descended from his hover platform and was examining the damaged floor with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for natural disasters. This floor was rated for impacts up to 50 kilograms at standard velocity. That's enough to handle a Horvathian falling down. In standard gravity, Patel pointed out. But that rating assumes objects are moving at standard gravity acceleration. You never tested for small, dense objects because you don't have small, dense objects. Everything in galactic civilization is optimized for low gravity. Light, efficient, elegant, fragile, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt my skin ridges flush with embarrassment, but I pressed on. I mean, from a certain perspective, all of our structures are fragile. We have optimized for our environment so completely that we have eliminated redundancy. We have eliminated overbuilding. We have made everything just strong enough to do its job and not one bit stronger. That's called efficiency, Thraxus said, but his voice lacked conviction. That's called a single point of failure, Martinez countered. Chairman, members of the council, we are not here to mock your engineering, but we need you to understand that human standards exist for a reason. Our ships are built to withstand accelerations and stresses that would tear your vessels apart. Our stations are built to handle impacts and structural loads you have never had to consider. Our tools, our equipment, our infrastructure, all of it is built to a standard you have never needed. She paused, looking around at the assembled delegates, many of whom were still staring at the ruined floor with expressions of dawning comprehension. You call it overbuilt, she continued. We call it Tuesday. A long silence filled the chamber. I could hear the faint hum of environmental systems, the quiet breathing of a dozen different species, and the occasional creak from the stressed floor material. Finally, Councillor Brecknack spoke. Ambassador Martinez, are you suggesting that human engineering standards are superior to galactic standards? No, Martinez said firmly. I'm suggesting they are different, and perhaps, just perhaps, there's value in that difference. Value, Thraxus repeated. You destroy our chamber floor and call it valuable. I'm calling it a learning opportunity, Martinez replied. Think about it. Right now, the consortium trades primarily within its own sphere. Your ships, your stations, your equipment, all designed for low-gravity, low-stress environments. But what happens when you want to expand, when you encounter other high-gravity species, when you need to operate in extreme environments? Webb stepped forward again. The galaxy is full of high-gravity worlds, gas giants with valuable resources, dense asteroid fields, neutron stars with unique properties. You have avoided all of them because your equipment can't handle the stress. But ours can. You are saying, I heard myself speak up again, that humanity could access resources and environments that we cannot. Potentially, Martinez agreed. And if we were members of the consortium, those resources would benefit everyone. Brecknack crossed his massive arms. Or you could simply be trying to leverage your unusual evolutionary circumstances into a favorable trade position. Well, yes, Martinez admitted, that too. We are not a charity. But the offer stands. Humanity brings unique capabilities to the table. Our engineering, our material science, our experience operating in high-stress environments. In exchange, we gain access to your advanced technology, your trade networks, your collective knowledge. Thraxus had been quiet for several moments, his vocal sac pulsing thoughtfully. When he finally spoke, his voice was measured. This council will need to deliberate. However, Ambassador Martinez, I believe you have made your point. Your engineering standards, while different, are clearly robust. Perhaps too robust for our infrastructure, Brecknack added, looking meaningfully at the damaged floor. We will pay for the repairs, Patel said quickly, and we will provide proper impact-resistant flooring. No charge. I caught the slight twitch of Martinez's eye. That hadn't been planned. Patel had just committed Earth to an expensive gesture of goodwill without authorization. Bold. I liked her. Thraxus seemed to consider this. The council will adjourn to discuss this matter. Ambassador Martinez, you and your delegation will be contacted within 3 cycles. In the meantime, please refrain from dropping any more objects in council facilities. Understood, Chairman, Martinez said with a slight bow. As the delegates began to file out, buzzing with conversation, I found myself standing next to Kelna, both of us staring at the damaged floor. They destroyed our floor with a pen, she said, wonder in her voice. A common writing implement, I agreed, made of steel, an everyday object for them. Vorp, do you realize what this means? I rotated an eye stalk to look at her. That we need better floors? That we have been building to the minimum necessary standards for so long that we have forgotten what it means to build something truly durable. She knelt down, running her fingers along the edge of the damaged section. This material is rated to last 300 cycles, but one tiny impact from an object we never anticipated, and it fails catastrophically. Because we never needed to anticipate it, I said. In our environment with our materials, this floor would last centuries. But introduce one variable from outside our experience, she continued, one small dense object moving with momentum we never accounted for, and our carefully optimized system fails. I thought about that, about our elegant, efficient, carefully optimized civilization, about ships built just strong enough to fly in standard gravity, about stations designed to handle anticipated loads and nothing more, about floors that could survive 3 centuries of normal use but couldn't survive a human's grandfather's pen. They are not overbuilt, I said quietly. We are underbuilt. Kilna looked up at me, her crystalline features reflecting my own uncertain expression. That's going to be a hard sell to the council. Maybe I agreed. But they just made their point pretty effectively, whether they meant to or not. Across the chamber I could see Ambassador Martinez talking quietly with her team. Webb was gesticulating animatedly, probably calculating force distributions or stress loads or whatever human engineers got excited about. Patel stood with her arms crossed, eyes still scanning for threats, and Martinez, she looked tired, but satisfied. They had come to the Galactic Council, these strange heavy worlders with their excessive engineering and their steel pens. They had been mocked, dismissed, called primitive and overbuilt and wasteful, and they had responded by casually demonstrating that everything we had built, everything we considered advanced and elegant and superior, was fragile in ways we had never imagined. One pen drop. That's all it took. One casual demonstration of the fundamental difference between a civilization that evolved under crushing gravity and civilizations that evolved in gentler conditions. I had a feeling the next 3 cycles were going to be very interesting indeed. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice wondered what other surprises humanity had in store for us. If a pen could do this much damage, what could their tools do? Their weapons? Their actual structural materials? I looked at the damaged floor one more time, at the spiderweb of cracks radiating out from a single impact point, and I felt something I had never expected to feel in the council chambers. Fear and respect, both at the same time. The humans had made their point. Now we just had to decide what to do about it. 3 cycles later I found myself in a situation I never thought possible. I was voluntarily spending time with humans. The council had arranged for a technical inspection of human engineering capabilities, and somehow, probably because the universe had a sick sense of humor, I had been assigned as the primary inspector.
Me. Right.
The junior administrator who just wanted a quiet career stamping forms and approving routine maintenance schedules. Now I was standing in the docking bay of the human ship Perseverance, watching Dr. Marcus Webb bounce around like an overexcited child showing off his toys. And this, Webb said, slapping his hand against a bulkhead with a metallic clang that made me flinch, is standard hull plating, reinforced titanium alloy with a carbon composite backing, rated to withstand micrometeorite impacts, radiation exposure and acceleration forces up to 15 standard gravities. Kalna was with me, her scanner humming as she analyzed the wall composition. 15 gravities? That's absurd. No biological organism can survive 15 gravities. Humans can, Lieutenant Yuki Patel said from her position near the airlock. She was always near an exit. I had noticed, always watching. For short periods, with proper support equipment and training, our fighter pilots regularly pull 8 to 10 gravities during combat maneuvers. Combat maneuvers, I repeated. You fight in space. We practice, Patel corrected. We haven't actually fought anyone yet, but we prepare for the possibility. They prepare for war, Kalna whispered to me, before they have even joined galactic civilization. Can you blame them? I whispered back. Look at how we treated them in the council chamber. They probably think we are all hostile. Ambassador Keiko Martinez appeared from a corridor, carrying a tray with several containers. Anyone interested in human beverages? We have coffee, tea, and something called energy drink that Dr. Webb assures me is safe for most species. I will pass, I said quickly. The last thing I needed was to consume human stimulants. I had heard stories about their caffeine. Apparently it was a mild poison they ingested recreationally to stay awake. Typical humans. Webb accepted a container, took a long drink, and immediately continued his tour with renewed energy. Now, over here, we have the primary support structures. Notice the redundancy. Every critical system has at least 3 backup systems. Power generation, life support, navigation, propulsion, triple redundancy on everything. That seems excessive. Kelna observed. Our ships use optimal redundancy calculations. Usually one primary system and one backup is sufficient. Sufficient until something fails, Martinez said, settling into a nearby chair. The chair, I noticed, was bolted to the floor with massive fasteners. Everything on this ship was bolted down, welded, or otherwise secured with what seemed like paranoid determination. On Earth, we have a saying, 2 is 1, and 1 is none. That doesn't make mathematical sense, I said. It means if you only have one backup, you have no backup when something fails, Patel explained. It means you plan for multiple failures simultaneously. Webb nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. See, on Earth we have this thing called Murphy's Law. It states that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong at the worst possible time in the worst possible way. You named a law after your own pessimism? Kelna asked. It's not pessimism, Martinez said with that slight smile of hers. It's realism. When you evolve on a planet that's actively trying to kill you, you learn to prepare for the worst. Actively trying to kill you? I felt my eye stalks swivel independently in alarm. What kind of death world did you evolve on? Webb's face lit up. Oh no. I recognize that expression now. He was about to info dump. Well, Earth has weather systems with wind speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. We have geological instabilities that cause the ground to literally shake apart buildings. We have temperature variations ranging from -80 to +70 degrees. We have predators, diseases, poisonous plants, poisonous animals, and poisonous minerals. We have atmospheric electrical discharges powerful enough to vaporize trees. Lightning, Martinez added helpfully. We call it lightning. Your sky attacks you? Kelna's voice had gone up several octaves. Regularly, Patel confirmed. Thousands of times per day across the planet. Plus, we have tidal forces from our moon that cause our oceans to rise and fall by meters. Volcanic eruptions. Asteroid impacts. Solar radiation. Oh, and our planet's magnetic field occasionally reverses polarity. I felt suddenly dizzy. How is your species not extinct? We are stubborn, Martinez said simply, and we build things to last. Webb gestured around the ship. That's why everything here looks overbuilt to you. It's not overbuilt for our standards. This is just how we make things. Strong enough to handle Earth's gravity, Earth's weather, Earth's disasters, and still have safety margin left over. Kelna had moved to a wall panel and was running detailed scans. Bortby, you need to see this. The molecular structure of this hull plating is incredible. The bonds are so tight, so uniform. This isn't fabricated, this is forged. Forged? I moved closer to look at her scanner readings. We use a combination of techniques, Webb explained. Forging, casting, extrusion, additive manufacturing. But yes, much of our structural material is forged. Heated to extreme temperatures and physically shaped under enormous pressure. It creates material properties that are difficult to achieve through other methods. Extreme temperatures. I repeated. How extreme? For steel, about 1500 degrees Celsius. I did the quick conversion in my head and felt my skin ridges go pale. That's hot enough to vaporize most species. Yeah, metallurgy is fun, Webb said happily. We have been working with metals for thousands of years. Bronze, iron, steel, titanium, specialized alloys. It's kind of our thing. Martinez stood and gestured for us to follow. Come on, I want to show you something else. Something I think will interest the Council. She led us through corridors that seemed unnaturally sturdy, past equipment secured with what I was now recognizing as typical human over-engineering, until we reached a large cargo bay. Inside were several containers, each labeled with human writing and galactic standard translations. These, Martinez said, opening the nearest container, are sample materials we brought for evaluation. Building supplies, basically, the kinds of things we would offer for trade. Kelna immediately moved forward with her scanner, but I was already examining the contents visually. Metal beams, composite panels, fastening systems, tools, all of it looked heavy, dense, incredibly robust. This is a standard construction beam, Webb said, pulling out a piece of metal about 2 meters long. He held it casually in one hand, despite it clearly weighing a significant amount. Human strength, I was learning, was not to be underestimated. On Earth we use these for residential construction, houses, apartments, basic structures, Kelna breathed. She was scanning the beam now, and I could see her disbelief growing. For this beam could support a 5-story building, by our standards, and they use it for houses that need to survive hurricanes, Patel said, earthquakes, floods, fires, tornadoes, heavy snow loads, all while supporting their own weight in 9.8 standard gravity. I picked up a small object from another container. It looked like a fastening device, similar to our bonding clips but much more primitive. What's this? That's a bolt, Webb said. You thread it through holes in 2 pieces of material, then secure it with a nut on the other end. Creates a strong mechanical connection. We don't use mechanical fasteners, I said. We use molecular bonding. It's cleaner, more elegant, and the join is often stronger than the original material. Until you need to take it apart, Martinez pointed out. Or repair it. Or replace a component. These bolts, you can remove them, adjust them, reuse them. They are not elegant, but they are practical. Kelno was examining a panel now, some kind of composite material. This is fascinating. It's layers, multiple different materials bonded together, each with different properties. Flexibility here, strength here, thermal resistance here, laminated armor plating, Patel said. We use it on military vehicles. The layered structure distributes impact force and prevents penetration better than a single uniform material. You have thought about being shot at, I said. It wasn't a question. We have been shooting at each other for our entire history. Martinez said quietly. War is something humans understand very, very well. We have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of destruction. And in the process, we have learned how to build things that can survive destruction. There was a moment of uncomfortable silence. Around the galaxy, most species had occasional conflicts. Sure, but humans seem to have weaponized it, studied it, made it a core part of their civilization's development. That's terrifying, Kelna said. Yes, Martinez agreed. It is. But it's also why our engineering standards are what they are. We build things that can survive the worst we can throw at each other, which means they can survive almost anything the universe throws at them. My communicator chirped. I glanced at it and felt my stomach drop. It's Chairman Thraxis. The Council has reached a decision. They want us back immediately. The return trip to the Council chamber was tense. Martinez and her team were quiet, professional. I couldn't read their expressions well, but I sensed nervousness. This decision would determine whether humanity joined galactic civilization or remained isolated on their heavy world. The chamber had been repaired. I noticed. The floor was new, and according to my briefing, it had been reinforced to 3 times the previous specifications. Apparently, someone had taken the pen incident seriously. The council members were already assembled. Thraxis, in his elevated position, Breknak looking grumpy as always, and representatives from dozens of other species, all watching the humans with various degrees of curiosity, concern, and calculation. Ambassador Martinez, Thraxis began, his vocal sac fully inflated. The Council has reviewed your application, examined the technical data provided by Inspector Vorth and Specialist Kelna, and deliberated extensively on humanity's potential membership in the Galactic Trade Consortium. Martinez stood straight, her team flanking her. We await your decision, Chairman. Your species presents an unusual situation, Thraxis continued. Your technology is simultaneously primitive and advanced. Your engineering is crude yet effective. Your standards are excessive yet, as demonstrated, possibly necessary. Get to the point, Thraxis, Breknak rumbled. Are we accepting them or not? Thraxis's vocal sac deflated slightly in annoyance at the interruption. The Council has voted. By a margin of 31 to 16, humanity's application for consortium membership is approved. I felt a strange rush of relief. Why? I barely knew these humans, yet somehow in 3 cycles they had impressed me, scared me, made me question everything I thought I knew about engineering and civilization. But Thraxis wasn't finished. However, there are conditions. Martinez's expression didn't change, but I saw Patel's hand move slightly toward her sidearm before she caught herself. Old habits. First, Thraxis said, human engineering standards will be classified as Category H, Heavy World Specifications. These standards will not be mandatory for consortium structures, but will be available as an option for species wishing to build to higher durability requirements. Acceptable, Martinez said. Second, Humanity will provide technical assistance in upgrading critical consortium infrastructure to improved standards. Not full human standards, but enhanced specifications that account for scenarios previously unconsidered. We can do that, Webb said, earning a sharp look from Martinez for speaking out of turn. Third. And here Thraxus paused, his eyes focusing on Martinez with unusual intensity. Humanity will share your material science, your metallurgy, and your structural engineering knowledge with the consortium. In exchange, we will share our advanced technology in power generation, faster than light travel, and medical science. That's a significant exchange, Martinez said carefully. It is, Thraxus agreed, but the Council believes it's fair. You need our technology to truly join galactic civilization. We need your engineering to expand into environments we have previously found inaccessible. It's mutually beneficial. Bricknock leaned forward. There's one more thing. An unofficial addition. We want to hire human engineers. That caused a stir. Martinez looked surprised for the first time since I'd met her. Hire? We have a problem, Bricknock admitted, and I could tell it pained him to say it. The Margon Belt, rich in rare minerals, but located in a high-gravity zone near a collapsed star. Our equipment can't operate there. Our ships can't handle the gravitational stress. But your ships, your equipment built for worse conditions on your own planet? You think we can access the Margon Belt? Martinez said, understanding dawning. We think you are the only ones who can, Bricknock confirmed. At least until we adapt our technology, and that adaptation will take years, decades, maybe. So we want to hire human engineers, human miners, human equipment operators. You work the belt, extract the minerals, we process and distribute them. Everyone profits. Webb was practically vibrating with excitement. The Margon Belt. I have read about it. The gravitational gradients alone are fascinating. And the mineral composition, oh, this is incredible. Webb, Martinez said quietly. Contain yourself. Right, yes, professional. Webb straightened his uniform, failing entirely to hide his enthusiasm. Martinez turned back to Thraxus. Chairman, on behalf of humanity, I accept these terms. We will need to formalize the agreements, work out the details. But in principle, yes, we are honored to join the consortium. Excellent, Thraxus said. Then let me be the first to officially welcome humanity to galactic civilization. May this partnership be prosperous for all involved. There was applause, the various species making their sounds of approval. Clicking, chirping, humming, and in Bricknock's case, a sort of grinding rumble that I think was meant to be encouraging. As the formal ceremony concluded and delegates began mingling, I found myself approaching the human delegation. Congratulations, I said to Martinez. You did it. We got lucky, she replied. That pen drop could have gone very differently. Was it luck, I asked? Or did you know exactly what would happen? Martinez smiled. Dr. Webb ran the calculations before we arrived. We knew the floor couldn't handle it. We just didn't expect it to fail quite so dramatically. You took a risk, Kelna said, joining us. You could have been rejected outright for destroying consortium property. Sometimes you need to break things to prove a point, Patel said. In the military, we call it a demonstration of force. Show your capabilities in a controlled way before someone tests them in an uncontrolled way. Humans are terrifying, Kelna said, but she was smiling. Absolutely terrifying. You haven't seen anything yet, Webb said cheerfully. Wait until we introduce you to our sports, or our food, or our entertainment. We have this thing called a roller coaster that Webb Martinez interrupted, one culture shock at a time. I looked at these strange heavy worlders, these beings who had evolved in a hell of crushing gravity, violent weather, and constant danger. These people who built everything 3 times stronger than necessary and considered it normal. These warriors who planned for disaster and called it preparation. And I realized something. The galaxy was about to change. Not quickly. Maybe. Not dramatically at first. But humanity brought something we had lost over millennia of comfortable optimization. They brought redundancy, over-engineering, safety margins, the expectation that things would go wrong and the preparation to handle it when they did. Gorp, Thraxus called out. A moment, please. I excused myself and approached the chairman's platform. You spent 3 cycles with the humans, Thraxus said quietly. Your official report was professional and thorough. But I want your personal opinion. Can we trust them?
I thought about that.
About Martinez's calculated risk with the pen, about Webb's manic enthusiasm, about Patel's constant vigilance, about a civilization that expected disaster and built accordingly. Yes, I said finally. But more importantly, I think we need them. Not just for their engineering or their ability to work in high gravity. We need their perspective. We have spent so long optimizing, making everything elegant and efficient, that we have forgotten how to build things that last, how to plan for the unexpected. The humans remember. Because they had no choice, Thraxis observed. Because their planet taught them lessons ours never did, I corrected, and now they are willing to share those lessons. If we are smart, we will listen. Thraxis's vocal sac pulsed thoughtfully. I hope you are right, Vorp. I truly do. Because we have just invited a species of warrior engineers into our civilization. If this goes wrong, it won't, I said with more confidence than I felt. They could have demonstrated their capabilities with weapons, with threats. Instead they used a pen, a writing tool, that tells me something about who they are. It tells me they have a sense of humor, Thraxis said, and that might be the most dangerous thing about them. Later, as I was preparing to leave, Kelna found me in the corridor outside the chamber. I got the assignment, she said, her crystalline features practically glowing with excitement. I'm going to be the liaison engineer for the Margon Belt project. I will be working directly with human engineers, learning their techniques. Congratulations, I said. That's a huge opportunity. Or, they are going to change everything, she said softly. Not just engineering, everything. The way we think about safety, durability, risk management. The humans are going to shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Good, I said, surprising myself. Maybe our foundations need shaking. She laughed. 3 cycles ago, you were calling them primitive. 3 cycles ago, I didn't understand. I admitted, I saw their heavy materials and excessive redundancy as backwardness. Now I see it as wisdom we lost. So what are you going to do? She asked. Back to stamping forms and approving routine maintenance? I thought about that, about my quiet, boring career, about the safe, predictable path I had chosen. And I thought about humans, with their steel pens and triple redundancy and casual expectation of disaster. Actually, I said, I'm going to request a transfer to the new Human Integration Department. Someone needs to help translate human engineering concepts into galactic standards. And I think I'm starting to understand both languages. Kelna's smile was brilliant. The humans are going to corrupt you completely, aren't they? Probably, I agreed. But maybe that's not a bad thing. From inside the council chamber, I could hear Webb explaining something enthusiastically to a group of fascinated delegates. Something about Earth's plate tectonics and how it influenced their architectural practices. The group was growing as more delegates wandered over, drawn by the humans' infectious enthusiasm. Martinez caught my eye from across the room and gave me a small nod. A gesture of thanks, maybe, or recognition, or possibly a warning. With humans it was hard to tell, but as I watched them begin to integrate into galactic civilization, teaching and learning, sharing and adapting, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The humans had arrived. With their excessive engineering and their disaster planning and their steel pens, and the galaxy was never going to be quite the same. And you know what? That was perfectly fine with me. 3 cycles ago, a human dropped a pen and broke our floor. Today humanity joined galactic civilization. Tomorrow, who knows? But I had a feeling it was going to be anything but boring. After all, these were the people who survived a death world, who built cities on earthquake faults and in hurricane zones, who looked at a hostile universe and decided to punch back. If anyone could shake up our comfortable, optimized, carefully calculated civilization, it was them. I just hoped we were ready for it. Somewhere behind me